Hey, I'm Jonathan, and I live in London, England.
Hey, I'm Jeff, and I live in Perth, Australia.
Together, we are Echo and Sidetrack.
We produce music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between the giant space that separates us.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Echo and Sidetrack.
We're also brought to you by Micrology Coffee Roasters, another amazing Perth company doing some big things. They source their coffee from around the world, roast it right here in WA, and can send it to you wherever you are, so you can enjoy the sweet, sweet brown liquid that is coffee. This week, we have a discount code for you. That discount code is
Sidetrack. That's spelled SIDETRACK at micrology.com.au.
Enter Sidetrack at checkout for 20% off. Get some coffee beans sent to you, and if you want it pre-ground or something because you don't have a grinder and you just want to try it out, just add that in the notes and they'll sort it out for you. Micrology Coffee Roasters. By far the best coffee you've had ever.
This podcast is also brought to you by Short Order Burger Co. Personally, I think it's the best burger in Australia. There's one store on Hay Street in the city and a new shop in Fremantle. Go get a nice, tasty, wet one right inside. So I want to start today's podcast by saying thank you to a few people that reached out to me after the last week's podcast and asked me how I was and offered some advice. And yeah, it was really, really kind, and I felt very loved. I've done some reflection and coming up with a bit of a plan to feel better, to work, to continue to work on myself. And one of those things is I'm going to see a psychologist over here online and speak to someone who isn't you. And by you, I mean the listener, because Jeff isn't here this week. No, by you, I mean Jeff. Speak to someone who can offer me some tools and tips and to kind of, to work on myself. Like I know some of the things that I need to do, but I think speaking to a professional, they can break it down in a way that is maybe a bit easier to swallow, and has tried and tested techniques that will lead me to a path towards a path of contentment and happiness.
I think that's great. And I think you do have a lot of people around you that love you, man. So just,
I know I do. And it's really good. I think, I think part of it actually is the weather. Not having any sun around. That's flavoring it. And also, London is a pretty big fucking place, and catching up with people is quite hard to do, especially now with COVID. And maybe I just don't have enough, really important social meetups. Like I actually had breakfast with Sebastian and Max the day after we recorded the podcast last week. And I was like, yeah, I need to do this like every fucking week with people, and really set out those times to have that social time and to get my friends in, so I don't come to an end of the week and go like, kind of just felt like I spoke to Jeff this week, or I didn't see this person. So I've actually planned out my week a bit more. So planned in social times.
That's really
catch
good.
up times. Yeah,
that's
so
important.
I'm feeling a lot better. Just to plan. I think making a plan of action is and I'll keep everyone updated on some of the tools and techniques that I'm going to apply. That I'm just going to do for myself, and then if I learn anything from speaking to a psychologist that I feel is relevant to share on the podcast, I'm more than happy to share with people, basically bootlegging their information and on-selling it to you.
That's the way we like it. Actually, if you can harness the power of someone else's information and then pass on what you've learned, that's a very powerful thing.
I think so. I think, we've talked about it before. The best wisdom, you don't know you're actually giving it away. Like usually it's just a realization you're having in your own head that someone you don't know needed to hear it, gets to hear it.
Yeah, often.
And
that's the way, yeah.
And I think I've had a couple of times where people have said to me, like, oh, what you said this time a couple of months ago really stuck with me or helped me out. And I know that's true with me listening to other people. So yeah, I think being open and honest with how we all feel and the journey we're all on.
Do you feel like you've got a little bit more bandwidth?
Yeah. A little bit more space. Working out helps massively.
Yeah.
Lifting heavy shit.
Yeah, it's something that's pissing me off at the moment because my shoulders, it's a bit quite something. There's like exercises I can't do. There's like I'm doing like what feels like 50% of the weights that I could do. And so I'm just starting to throw myself around the gym a little bit more. I'm just going to start using the assault bike and doing other shit like that because I'm feeling a bit like making that noise.
Can you do kettlebell swings?
Yeah, I can do kettlebell swings. I did. After you told me you did 100 the other day, I had a very quick session at the gym. I had 25 minutes. That's all I had. So I chose one exercise and did a little superset there. Then I designed a little 5 exercise thing that involved chin-ups, pull-ups, kettlebell swings, battle ropes, and some sort of crunch exercise. And I just did that as many times as I could in 15 minutes.
Nice. Swimming also might be an interesting option for your shoulder, buddy.
I have been thinking about swimming.
Get down to the old Craigie Pleasure Centre.
Yeah, it's just going to be a thing, another thing to add into my schedule. I don't know. We'll see. I'll look at it. I think it's getting better. I'm going to start doing more of the exercises, and I think it is improving, but it's also kind of hurting in other spots now. So I don't know. I need to look at it, and sometimes it just annoys me.
Yeah, but the pain is frustrating, especially as the body begins to degrade as we get older. Man, this morning, I have a staircase in my house, and sometimes I go up them really fast because I get excited that I've got a staircase in my house and I want to get in my room. You know how like you just want to get up there?
Yes.
Yeah. So I did that and I tripped on the second last stair and both knees went up, like both feet came up to my bum, and I just kneed the final stair right on my shin.
Oh.
And it was fucking painful. Like I cried out. Like a cry. Like a war cry. I cried out. So yeah, pain is frustrating. Pain is life. Life is suffering. And all that jazz.
You're having some insights, I can tell. That's really good, man. It makes me happier to hear. Obviously, I've been checking in on you during the week. But yeah,
thank you for checking in on me though, as well. I really appreciated that. When someone else checks on you, it forces you to check on yourself. And I think that's the value in it, because sometimes we don't check in with ourselves about how we're actually feeling. And I can tell that I've been kind of living in a reactionary kind of mind. But when someone actually that you care about and love reaches out and says, hey, how are you doing today? And, you did it a couple of times this last week. And you don't just write back, good. You write back, I'm actually this is bothering me, or you kind of think about it a bit more, and that to me feels like your conscious brain is kind of starting to deal with the issues that you might be having, or being more aware of itself rather than letting the monkey brain or the reptilian brain get carried away and just live in a state of reaction.
Yeah, for sure.
When was the last time you went on a non-music based holiday? Because we always go places based around music. Like you go to Europe, play shows. That was always the motive, like the driver. It's like I measure holidays like that. Like, I always take my laptop on holiday. Like, when was the last time you did not take your laptop somewhere and you stayed away for longer than 2 days?
You know what, Jono? I don't. Oh, I went down south with some mates earlier this year. That was cool. But even when I first went overseas to Europe, Jonathan, in 2008, I took my laptop with me because I had university work to do.
Yeah.
I remember being in Bergen and you guys were off to do something, and that's Bergen in Norway, and I had to find the bibliothèque and sit and get some work done and talk about. I'd say that was one of my periods where I was definitely doing what you're doing now. Resisting all the work, and I stretched it out over that whole trip, man. And basically it got to the point where like I failed 2 units because I just didn't hand in the work, and then I was like, cool, they're done. I failed them. Fuck it. I'll do them next year. Who cares? And then I was done and I could have fun with my friends. But yeah, I definitely stretched it out. Yeah, man, I often take trips that are work based. Or at least have some semblance of work relating to them, or I do work while I'm away. Maybe going to Bali a few years ago for a friend's wedding, but even then we had some responsibilities and things like that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to actually trying to, in the next year or in the next 6 months, even trying to take some breaks that are more leisure related than I'm going to a different place to do a slight variation of the thing I do here.
Yeah.
You really have to work to choose to, find time for yourself and space and all that kind of stuff. But I know the difference when I don't have to do any work, how that feels. Because there are times when we are away in Europe and we've done the work and we've got a week off essentially, and we're just free. We can like, oh, let's do that thing. Let's meet up with those people. Like, oh, let's find this restaurant. This looks like heaps of fun. Let's go. But I was just gonna say I miss travel, and posting that the announcement that we're going to be playing hospitality on the beach this coming year, 2021, really excited me. I'd kind of forgotten that we do travel and play tunes. Like to post that, I was like, oh, in July I'm going to go to Tisno and play music and play a festival. That's going to be heaps of fun. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Like my brain just hasn't been allowed to think like that. But I think it will start to be. I don't know.
I hope it goes ahead. After I'd kind of forgot about it too until someone messaged me and said, "Oh, big ups on hospitality on the beach," and I was like, "Oh, thanks." That's a weird message to get out of the blue. Like, I think it got deferred, or I didn't actually know that hospitality they'd announced it again. Part of me got excited, and then another part of me was like, I don't want to get my hopes up. But I do want to get my hopes up and put it out into the universe that it will go ahead, because I think it's just going to be such a sick time when it does. That's going to be a trip for me that I don't take my laptop to. And I know that seems like a ridiculous thing, but I'm going to be so prepared that we have all the USBs done. It's all sorted out. No tunes are being added on the last minute. We've just got USBs, headphones. I may even take a fucking tote bag and just rough it and kind of embrace.
I'm going to fucking record this and play it to you as you're stuffing like multiple items into a tiny suitcase.
Multiple note bags.
Yeah. How many books should I take? How many books should I take? What do you think? Is it going to be cold at the beach?
I'm going to take 2 books. I'll take 2 books. I'm going to take some books, and I'm going to have a portion of the trip that is dedicated to letting loose, and then I'm going to have a portion of the trip dedicated to reading a book on a fucking beach and having like having that time to relax and doing nothing and not being beholden to anyone.
I would hope that you get a chance to have a full break before July.
Me too. I would. I've been discussing it with a couple of people about ideas to go on holiday. We've had some doozies. I listened to that podcast with the aliens, the Joe Rogan one.
Oh yes, aliens.
Did you listen to it?
You
did, right? Yeah,
I did, and I've listened to a few of the podcasts, and I haven't had the chance to do any kind of like reading and stuff. I've watched the David Fravor videos and a few of those, and I'm pretty convinced there's some very strange shit going on. It's like a combination of Bob Lazar talking, not that documentary. Bob Lazar talking on the podcast, on Joe Rogan's podcast. David Fravor talking on Rogan's podcast. The last guys chatting on Rogan's podcast. And then I think
it's Jack Valet and James something. He's the director of a new film called Phenomenon, which I would like to watch.
So would I. Associated reading around those podcasts, and then my natural inkling towards the slightly conspiratorial, very shallow surface level stuff. Like I never go too deep. You did that year.
For what?
Like I don't know. You just had a phase where like I would come into the study and you'd be like, "Man, I've just watched 40-minute video about Tower 7 and shit like that."
No. I got deep. Okay. I got into Aleister Crowley around 2014, 2013, specifically when I was working at Perth Racing as a cameraman at the horse races. I would have time sitting up there in the tower and I would watch YouTube. And Aleister Crowley is a famous master of the occult, if you will. You know, his nickname was 666. And I would watch some documentaries about him, and that led me to like spirits and demons, and how some people would say that even some UFO activity was actually demons in the sky. And I remember telling you that
it could well be.
Man, I think they're not. I don't think they're UFOs. I think they're actually demons and like spirits. And I kind of got into that. Kind of thinking more so than like Tower 7.
You had a few Alex Jones moments, but then there was crisis actor proof in
maybe Occupy Wall Street,
and potentially the Boston Marathon bombing.
Yeah, agent provocateurs.
Yeah. So, but you were either way. You were in. So I've never gone as deep as you, but I've always had a bit of an interesting look on aliens. I think I've seen an alien as well.
Where do you think you've seen an alien?
I stepped out my back door when I lived in Trigg on the coast, and we lived on a pretty high hill. And I looked out the back door, out over the ocean, and I was going outside to pick something up and just take it back into the house. And I just kind of wandered outside and I just stared at this really bright star that was there, pretty much due east, out over the water, and I looked at it for a bit, 3 or 4 seconds, and I was like, "It's a really bright star," and then it moved. It went shot up into the air at an incredible speed and just disappeared.
That sounds a lot like the movements described by Commander Favor and the Tic Tac video and that type of stuff. Like,
That's why I've always said that it was a weird thing. I remember walking inside and saying to Peter, like, I just saw the weirdest fucking thing, because a shooting star doesn't move like that.
no.
That's something I saw, and it's always. But so again, I've had that little experience plus the reading and stuff that I've done and looking around. So I'm not all in at all, but I am.
But you're open to the idea.
Very open to the idea, and I'm also like quite open to the idea that they're not going to be. I think they're pretty aware of what we're doing, and I think a lot of the stories that relate to like jamming missile codes and like apparently there's been a lot more activity reported since we started using nuclear things and stuff like that.
Well, that's when it kind of, it's kicked off.
Yeah, so I don't know. As someone who's very, 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 very peripheral to all the alien stuff, it does feel like they're like, maybe you should not play with this stuff. I don't know.
When you say that, do you mean like technology, like humans playing with nuclear technology, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's very strange. Like some of the stories you hear of maybe not abduction, but like just interactions. Like apparently in this movie Phenomenon, they interview a bunch of African school kids that were visited, and it was like during the day or something, and they all described the same thing, and they all drew the same kinds of pictures, and they reported being communicated with telepathically. And like you just don't, if you make something up, there's probably going to be some holes in your story, and you're going to tell things differently, and you're going to have a bit of bravado to the rest of your life and stuff like that. But it seems like some of the people that are involved in these things don't have that. And then someone like that Jacques dude comes along and he's like, oh yeah, I've worked with top military people, and then you hear a military guy say some things about like, oh yeah, we see these kinds of craft all the time. You're like, okay, so where's the truth? Like, maybe I don't believe in crop circles, or maybe I don't believe in the fact that someone got fucking anally probed. But if someone's saying that they see these, unidentified flying objects, I'm sure they've got a better classification now.
I think they've got a new classification.
But if they are seeing these things, and then you're getting video of them and a few other bits and pieces, and then you move a few steps further, and then people are having, what is it, close encounters of the third kind, because it's personal contact. I don't know the ranking system, but it makes that believable. It makes that more real. Like if I told you I saw an elephant and no one had ever seen an elephant, and I explained the elephant to you, you'd be like, you're a fucking liar. And then if a scientist came out, I hadn't said yet that I seen an elephant, and so a scientist came out and said, we found some really big bones, and then another scientist came out 2 years later and said, we hypothesized that this animal would live in this area, and these kinds of things, and we found this skeleton, or a very complete one, and then someone else saw it and snapped a photo, and then I said I saw it, then that makes it more believable. Like you need a few little steps to link it together.
As the evidence builds up, and evidence beyond just first-person eyewitness accounts, which tend to be flimsy as evidence, I definitely think something's going on. Like there's enough evidence to not discount it like you could have discounted it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that mainstream science is, the fact that the CIA have admitted that, like, we have seen and have stuff that is not from this world, or they had some sort of interesting way of explaining it. Whether or not these are beings from our solar system or our galaxy, or where they're from, or whether they're from a parallel universe, they are here to harm us and to break. No, like it's clear that they are. There is something. There's got to be something out there beyond us. Man, the fact that we haven't explored fucking 75% of the sea is insane. And the fact that these things are seen to be coming sometimes out of the ocean makes complete sense. Yeah, I mean, I'm open. I'm open to that kind of thing.
If they can fly through space and they can fly and perform these crazy maneuvers, they're going to have no problem just hiding out under the waves.
Yeah.
While we ride oil tankers and stuff. The next thing would be like oil tanker people keeping an eye out for things.
Oil tanker people. You're an oil tanker person.
You know what I mean?
Feels like the world is just going to get more interesting as we move forward in time. I swear maybe Fett has had an alien experience that he described to us very, very early in our friendship. Maybe we should ask him about it. But I believe he was visited.
He had the ghost one when he was in New Zealand.
That's right. A ghost story.
And
man, ghosts are real.
Yeah.
They're definitely real.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Spirits and energies and things like that. I firmly believe in that kind of stuff, and it can definitely freak me out. Like, there's no fucking way you could get me using a Ouija board.
No.
There's no fucking way. Like, no amount of joking, no amount of nothing. I'd be like, no fucking chance. I would not want to summon good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. I don't need that shit in my life. Oh, he's been cursed by a demon.
Man, to be cursed by a demon sounds like a
spell put on you.
Follow-up series to Touched by an Angel.
Cursed by a demon.
I believe in this kind of I believe there is something else beyond, sometimes we talk in spiritual senses, or sometimes I even speak in religious senses. And and it's because I know that there is something. I've had experiences that have led me to know that there's so much that we just do not understand.
Oh, absolutely. There's stuff on the fringe, man.
I told you about my D&T experience.
You did.
I did it in a place that is in the southwest of Australia, underneath the stars, and allegedly after I did it, I kind of shot into the stars, but before I went there, a kind of group of shadowy figures with the outline, I could tell that they were Aboriginal people with spears, and kind of came and rose up. And at that first, they kind of looked at me as if I was a threat, and then it's almost like they allowed me to pass beyond them and into the geometric universe or whatever. And
Whoa.
that part of Australia has a lot of
Aboriginal history.
significance to Aboriginal people and to history, and a lot of spirits, and some bad spirits, some good spirits. And it felt to me like they were all kind of guardians of that realm, and they felt that I had no intention of harming them, so they kind of allowed me to have this experience. Now, I didn't know much about the history of the exact place I was, but I am aware of some of the history before I had this experience of Aboriginal people in the Southwest. So did I put this in my own brain and create this idea of that they were the gatekeepers of this journey, or were they actually the gatekeepers of the journey?
If it was all just a hallucination, is that real anyway? Like, if
it's tangible enough
to affect you, it's like a dream. It's like a dream's not real, but you can wake up feeling some very real emotions, or
absolutely,
and have some real effects from it.
That experience is definitely stuck with me, but I always think about that moment and be like, I truly felt like it wasn't a shallow moment. That was a significant moment. I truly felt like I was allowed, that they were allowing me to have an experience.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of communication, kind of.
Absolutely. It was like threatening, and then it was allowing to pass. Just in the first, it was in the first second. And I mean, I remember two other things from the whole experience, but that really stuck with me. But yeah, and that kind of leads. I mean, we don't understand what the fuck is going on with so many things. So if I can have that experience and know that I felt that way, and yeah, like if I had that experience, who am I to say that there aren't other people out there having experiences with aliens or parallel universes or God or...
Yeah, I think we get very, very locked into our reality. Like, we think that's true, therefore we can't see the little, like, bits around the edges that seem to, move a little bit different, and therefore you aren't open to them, therefore you will never see them. Like, it's almost like the hardening of reality happens over time, and it's pretty fluid when you're a child, perhaps. I don't know. This is just purely my own idea that I'm having right now as I talk it. But, like, as we go through life, we definitely, like, solidify what we believe we know, therefore it becomes what we know. But if you remain open to things, and, stranger things might happen to you. Like, I've definitely had moments this year in particular. Like, I've had moments where I'm like, there is no way this isn't like a message from whether it's a higher power or whether it's just like my own little universe just giving me a nudge in the right direction. And sometimes that happens like gently, like, you're running late, but the other person's running late as well, so it didn't matter. Or, sometimes, that's probably kind of a shoddy example. But then sometimes I have really concrete things that it's like, whoa, that happened like that because I'm kind of like meant to be here with this person talking to them now.
Butterfly effect kind of stuff.
A little bit, I suppose. Just, so I think there's some it's hard to just be completely, what's the word? Like, skeptical of that stuff. Just be like, no, but I suppose my brain wants to believe in the fantastic as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm quite open to that kind of, interesting stuff. I remember having incredible hallucinations when I had a fever when I was a child. At the foot of my bed, my door was open and I could see down the hallway. At this particular moment, it was a trench in World War II and people were running up and down it, and like people running towards me, and I couldn't get out. I was stuck in the mud and I was yelling, and like in the end, Mum came up the hall and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I kind of came to, and like the trench disappeared and I was there at the end of my bed, like kind of yelling. And another time during that same fever, I was Which is strange to remember this because it's like I'm remembering something from a storybook, but I saw it. It was so real when it was happening. Like a large cave troll person was looking after me at one point, like feeding me soup and giving me things. And that must have been Mum. But I was just like, laying there. Mum or Dad, yeah, probably Dad. Like, come in and see me, put like a little wet towel on my head or something like that. Like, it was completely real at the time. Like, it's like absolutely feverish.
I think your brain is like, we perceive reality through our brain. You know,
It's like the antenna.
It's the antenna. So your antenna can sometimes break, or it can have some faulty wiring.
Or it can get extra sensitive to extra stuff. I don't think it's always broken.
Yeah, or it can also tune into a certain reality that that it might not be normally tuned into. Like, I truly believe that, you know, the reality that I'm tuned into at the moment is not the reality that I will be tuned into in 2 months. Nor was it the same that I was tuned into 2 months ago.
So what's stopping you, like, retuning yourself? If you can be aware that you're not in tune, that you can change it.
Because I think retuning it means rewiring and reworking. And that's what takes time. It's difficult to rewire the brain.
You don't think it's as simple as changing the channel and...
No, I don't know. Things take time to change.
For sure.
Like, what's a good example? I was trying to think of maybe. I feel like words are something that changes pretty quick in our culture at the moment. Like, I used to use the word gay to describe things that didn't mean gay. Until probably the last 3-4 years, where I got together with someone who had a lot of gay friends and pointed it out more to me, to the point now that I don't use that word unless something is super gay. But like, and I mean that in like
the homosexually driven kind of way.
Even then, like, I barely use it. Like, I use a better word for what I was using that word for. And that's something I've changed in my brain. And now when I hear...
gay used to mean super happy in like the 1950s.
Yeah. And like, but now in my brain, when I hear someone else say gay and use it in an incorrect way, I kind of cringe a little. And
Absolutely.
Like, that's not... Shouldn't use that. You should use a better word. What do you actually mean?
Yes.
My brain and my reality have changed over that time. So now I live in reality where that's not an okay word to use. So that's, if you want to change your reality completely, that's one little thing in my reality that's changed and that I've changed on myself. If I want to change my reality completely to if I want to go from, and I'm not saying I am this, but if I want to go from someone who's depressed, can't get out of bed, miserable, hates their life, to someone who is content, loves their life, loves their job, searches for challenges themselves, a real Aubrey Marcus character or a Joe Rogan character. If you want to make that change, that is a difficult change to make. That is a difficult reality to change overnight. I can say, I'm going to stop using this word, and if I get, I accidentally use it a couple of times, I get called out, or, you get... It's pretty easy to make that change. It's pretty easy to cut out a word from your vocabulary. But to change all those other aspects, to change self-talk, to change confidence, to change the ability to get out and challenge yourself every morning, those type of stuff, to change that reality is more difficult. But you do that by starting to tune or to equalize or to EQ or to ways to tune your brain to get to that point is to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning and do 10 push-ups, or to write a diary every night. Those things is your hands moving the dial on a tuner to find the reality in which finally, maybe a year down the track, 2 years down the track, you are living in a reality where you've tuned into positivity, contentment, love, all those things. And you no longer search for the channel that is self-deprecation and hate and fear and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I also think it's about being the present. That's why the present's so important. Like coming back to actually, where am I? What am I doing? And like changing your perception on what you have and where you are. The example I can always come back to is Duncan Trussell saying that we're in a fucking fun park. We're in an amazing water slide park with the best roller coasters and amazing rides and water slides, and everyone's laughing and everyone's having fun. And you're splashing around in the urinal being pissed on, saying that this is the shittest fun park I've ever been to, but you're actually just in the urinal at the fun park.
Yeah. Like, that's such a good analogy. I feel like I've spent some serious time in the urinal at a fun park, and I think a lot of people. And realizing that, like, wow, like, okay, I'm making this. If I can just like make a few little changes, I can get out of the toilet, get out of the urinal, stop being pissed on for one, and also get out of the fucking toilets. And then I can see the rides around me and be like, oh, actually, this place is a fucking dream world, not a fucking piss trough. And like, I'm writing that down. Get out of the urinal and stop being pissed on. I can put that on my wall.
It's just change. It's about changing your reality, because there's a lot of power in just like kind of twisting the knobs, like you're saying, in almost in a lying to yourself way. Like you wake up in the morning and be like, I'm getting ready to get pissed on, or you could wake up in the morning being like, today I'm not getting pissed on today, and so you can just change little things that allow you to make some of those steps. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I think the trick is to say, I'm not getting pissed on today, rather than, why am I getting pissed on? You know, like questioning, just like getting out of the fucking trough, rather than sitting in the trough while piss is streaming on you and being like, why am I here?
But if
it's that kind of actionable stuff that gets you out of the trough.
But do you know what's crazy? You can also have fun in the trough.
You can have fun in the trough.
People believe it's fun in the trough sometimes. It's still a water park anyway. Like there are fun people coming in and pissing on you. I mean, maybe we've stretched this metaphor a little bit too far.
Like Robin Williams is coming in.
Yeah, exactly. But fuck that story about Robin Williams on that Billy Connolly podcast. It just made me nearly cry.
Everyone go listen to the Adam Buxton podcast with Billy Connolly. He tells a Robin Williams story, which is very emotional.
Amongst other stories, though, he has a wonderful grandfatherly like quality. I could listen to it for hours.
Adam Buxton that podcast is really good. What I wanted to say was, in terms of changing your brain, that reality, kind of to bring it back to aliens, you choose to live in whatever reality you want, right? So that reality, not only do you change like the parts of yourself, but you can choose to live in a reality where fucking aliens are real and they are 100% here, and there are different races of them, and they have different wants and needs from the human whatever. You can live in a realm where that becomes real to you. You know? Like, people that are colorblind can't see some colors. That's their reality. That's real to them.
And people that play fucking World of Warcraft 16 hours a day, that's real to them.
That's real to them. And as real as...
It's real to me, goddammit!
I just want to thank you for what you've done to your bodies.
Like, yeah, it's fucking real. Like that is real to them. So like, if you and I are already leaning towards believing in spirituality and that type of stuff.
Oh, I'm already I'm more than knee deep in that pool. And like, it's a delightful part of the water park.
And telling people that's the world you live in when they're living in a different realm. Man, it's kind of like I was someone that's really happy and talking to someone that's depressed and being like, come on, man, like it can get better. And the person who doesn't feel good is like, I don't see that. I can't see beyond that reality.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
It's like someone being a skeptic. It's a believer talking to a skeptic person and being like, look, there's aliens out there. Look at this evidence. And the skeptic is like, no, it's just not in their reality. Their reality is not as fun and fantastical, maybe.
And sometimes you're just too close. It's like you're trying to understand where you are on the map, but you've stood with your nose pressed right up to it, and you're like, I can't see where I am. You actually have to step back from the map and be like, oh, the city, or stick with the water park. The water park is that much bigger. Now I know where to go, and I can go look somewhere else. But if you stand there with your nose pressed up to it, you can't see anything. It's like, it's just all black. It's like, oh, it's just and that perspective is very important. And perspective from a mental perspective, but also from a, allowing things to happen. Like, I guarantee you, if you put out to the universe every day for a month a certain little thing to happen, and this is not, I've never read The Secret, I don't fucking know what it's about, but I'm not suggesting that, but I'm saying like, the universe will conspire to help you if you help yourself. And then you can believe them to be coincidences, and you can believe all sorts of other things, but there is a conspiring, like, it's almost like you catch a little energy vortex and it's like, oh, you're going to add to this. We can make this bigger. And it turns into a little like tornado and grows with you. But if you're super resistant to any ideas like that, then you will think of so many other, it's like you don't trust your intuition enough. You'll think of reasons to say no to things, or reasons to not do things. And you won't catch those little bits of energy. Sometimes you will, because you'll get lucky and you'll go with it, but you'll have another explanation for it. And I guarantee you'll catch more if you believe in them.
Fuck yeah. You'll catch more if you believe in them. I think that's a great sentiment.
And you'll feel more positive about taking more shots. And when you take more shots, you score more goals, and when you score more goals, you get happier.
You miss all the shots you don't take.
Absolutely, and like Michael Jordan said, why would I worry about missing a shot that I hadn't taken yet?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a bit of a shorter podcast, but I'd say let's embrace that. And yeah. Thanks for filling me in on your situation, filling me in on where you stand on... Actually, just finish things off. Do aliens exist, Jonathan? What do you think?
Yes. I'm all in. I think that there's something from an alternate universe attempting, or like, well, okay, no. What I think is that we've got like a guardian angel as a society. Like, we as humans, as a race of people, are like little children, less than children, in the grand scheme of the universe, be it parallel universes or our universe. And I think these people, or these aliens, or these things, or energies, or whatever they are simple guides. And they're kind of nurturing us. And we're like a fucking sprout of a society. And maybe one day we will be a full head of broccoli. But that day is not yet come. But again, this is the path. I think they want to try to guide us to be better and act not as primitive apes, which we do so often. And I mean that's my hopeful point of view, and that's also my point of view because that's how I believe life is. Like, you know, we talked about it just then, like how the universe guides you, and you've got, anytime you come up against something difficult or you get something positive, it's like your guide giving you an opportunity or giving you a challenge. And it's nice to think that everyone's got this kind of like a mentor. Like you've got a person working in an office that's completely dedicated to your life, and their job is to grow you like a sim. Except they can't cheat. They have to play by the rules of life, but they want you to win. And not because they get some sort of personal bonus. They just truly believe in you as a character. So they constantly challenging, constantly allowing you to fail and learning and trying to make you the best character that you can be. And at the end, you die and you get transported to a little meeting room where they've got a file and they're like, look what we did together. Look what we did. Let's go again.
And they grab you over the bench and say, you're going to do better this time. And yeah, I think that's a lovely way of looking at it. I mean,
and I think that's what the you know, if there's some sort of creatures that are talking to us, I think that's probably what their intention is too. I don't believe their intention is to farm us. I don't believe their intention is to use our skin as some sort of byproduct. Or maybe it's not as grandeur, and maybe the universe is so big and we matter so little that our only purpose is for them to collect. Imagine if like our true purpose, we think we're these beings of light and God is amongst us, and like we're all this, we think we're so special
and self-actualized and everything,
self-actualized and all this shit. Actually, the only reason we exist is because 4 creatures from parallel universes needed a new type. Like there's a specific leather that they need for the undersole of like a thong or a flip-flop. And that's all we're good for. That's what our skin is used for. Just the undersole of a specific type of flip-flop that's as popular as it just slides. We are only exist to provide the leather on the bottom of aliens' people slides.
And they mine it from the oceans.
Yeah, and it's not even that much of a popular brand in the alien world. It's like it's kind of throwaway.
They're like, oh yeah, so I'm an earth miner. It's like you're a bit of a scumbag. Like you're doing nothing.
Yeah.
I get to look at those like weird alien humans. They're like, they are the most boring people in the world. Are they warring again? But they're just like, nothing. We mean nothing.
Well, we look at apes, Jeff, and we kind of
I see friends.
We view them and we see friends, and we're like, they're pretty cool. But if you saw an ape fashioning a sword, that would get shut down pretty quickly. Or like if a group of apes in Borneo, they found that they had been they'd like
building a rudimentary internet.
Yeah, doing something.
A network.
A network, or like
they built a really simple internal network.
I can just see like a light coming from a forest and the trees parting, and an ape is welding something and just putting on and off the welding mask, and then looks up at the human and then says just like, fuck, and just drops everything and starts like monkeying around. I mean, ooh.
The monkeys, they've reached the Bronze Age.
But we would shut that down. Or maybe we would harness it. Maybe we would see if we could help them move quicker, or see what would happen.
That's a very interesting point. Are we helping any other species evolve, or are we think we're the ones? Like, we literally, it's like very rarely is it we're helping them. Where we'd be like, oh, we should leave the whales alone, but we're still fucking with every other part. It basically be, instead of stealing children, human children and humans, they're just gonna shit in our roadways and, like, you know, be around us and stuff. But we're not gonna attack you anymore. We've, like, you know, and then we're like, we're doing so well for that society. But, you know, that's kind of what we do to other species. We're not, you know, if we did see a monkey welding, we wouldn't be like, oh, this is really cool. Let's watch. Let's keep an eye on what they're doing. There are monkeys. They think that monkeys have certain apes have reached a bit of the tool age, and they're doing a lot of stuff. They're definitely getting quicker, smarter, and stuff like that. But you know, we don't seem to nurture any other species. So for another species to nurture us would be,
I mean, we don't nurture ourselves.
Exactly.
I think that they're probably, again, I say they as in the interdimensional creatures or aliens or whatever you want to call them. If they're at a point where they can travel seemingly at high speeds through parallel universes and stuff, I think they've probably got to the point where they've sorted all the
a few of the
bullshit
things out.
Yeah, like, you know, we're still we're not as far evolved from the monkey using a stone tool, you know? We still look at fucking politics, man. It's still the king ape who can be the biggest alpha. It's what led to Trump. You know, we still you still see this primal driving everything. Everything we do is just so fucking primal and animalistic. We need to give up all of that stuff before we help, and we need to help fellow man. Like, we need to fucking be way more socially conscious of countries.
If an alien came out, imagine an alien popped out at the end of 2020, and he kind of appeared and projected his vision to everyone and said, humans of Earth, it's been a pretty rough year, I can see, but this is nothing on what will happen if you do not address these 5 things. I'm going to bake them onto this material, and I'm going to give you these 5 things you have to be aware of and you have to change. Otherwise, you cannot go to the next level. The next level promises X, Y, Z, but you have to change these 5 things. Do you think humans could change? Or do you think there'd be still people being like, that wasn't a real alien, this is a lie?
Absolutely.
That's a hoax.
There'd be definitely people
so you
who
don't
would think that.
Absolutely there would, but do you think that would be enough to bind us together?
Yes, I do, but it would be very difficult. I mean, you essentially have to have everyone realize that there is something bigger than us and bigger than the individual, which they're slowly starting to. I mean, we're starting to. You'd have to... yeah, humans are adaptable. It would take time, though. There is a big machine that runs the world and how it runs. And you'd probably also, if the creature gave us some sort of, apart from just telling us what we needed to change, if they gave us some sort of technology or if they gave us some sort of blueprint to do that.
It said you can have, the secret to resolving climate change is all the things you've been thinking about doing, but also this, and it gave us this like thing. It wasn't some energy source. It was like, you're going to have to make some giant changes, but then that'll happen. And when you solve that, or when this starts reversing, I will give you we will come back and we'll give you more stuff. Do you think that would be enough?
Maybe not. I don't know. I think Chris Ryan says, I have faith in humans, but not humanity.
Yeah.
Something like that. That's like, I trust a lone man, or a lone woman, a lone man, whatever, but not a group, And to think that we could act as a global force is maybe a bit altruistic. But I would like to think so. I mean,
I'd like to think so as well.
Guarantee someone would be like, I'm going to be the one. I think we'd respond in such an ape way. Whoever the first person was that had the contact would be like, I am the one that will now speak to the alien on behalf of Earth, and someone else would say, no, I will be the one. It's just would become a dick measuring contest in some way.
And there'd be people
so
selling
quickly.
merch, and there'd be people trying to make money, and like,
Yeah.
it would be, and like, no matter how much you screamed, like, guys, did anyone hear what, like, replaying the message? And it's like, he means this is what he means. Like, I think what he's actually saying, what we believe the alien to be saying is this.
Yeah.
These are our first images of the tablets that he gave us, and it's written in English, but what we're doing now is deciphering it. And he says, address these issues, and we're not going to do number one. We're going to go and do number two first, because it seems easier. We'd fuck it up in some stupid humanoid way.
There's a scene, I think it's The Watchmen. In The Watchmen, for those who haven't seen it, go watch it or go read the graphic novel. It's really good.
Go read the graphic novel.
But yeah, that's all about nuclear holocaust nearly coming, but then a greater threat poses themselves to the world, so they have to join forces. And there's a bit where, at the end, spoiler alert.
Don't tell me.
Okay, well, I won't. But there's always a scene in these movies where the enemies that were against each other for so long suddenly are with each other, like are buddies, and like, we're going to do this together, whether it's America and Russia or
Independence
China
Day.
and America, like Independence Day. And I just don't see that happening. As much as how nice it is to have a scene where the president of America and the president of France, who've been at odds the whole movie, are in the same room, and they're like, finally, I should have trusted you from the beginning, and like have a handshake and like, let's do this together. I just don't know if that would happen. I think me and you could do that. We couldn't make those probably decisions, but me and you could come to some sort of arrangement. But the whole world, I don't know. Imagine if they were like, you can fix it, but you have to do this, this, and this, which would mean third world countries get completely fucked, and mass famine and mass deaths of like 3 billion people.
I think, I'm going to Google this. There is a movie called Cosmic Slop. It's from 1994. I came across it on TV one night years ago. It's a B-grade movie, a science fiction anthology series that aired on HBO. It was hosted by the Parliament lead singer George Clinton. It was in the kind of vibe of the Twilight Zone. This is what IMDb says. Is a thought-provoking trilogy addressing the destiny of the world's minorities. In part one, a conservative African-American politician must choose between his people's survival and appeasing his white colleagues when space aliens propose to share their profound knowledge in exchange for all the black people on Earth. Part two.
Whoa.
The Virgin Mary's appearance in an inner-city housing project forces a Hispanic priest to face the hidden cultural origins of Western religion. And part three, on the dawn of the quote-unquote Black Revolution, an African-American couple discovers who the real enemy is. Yeah, it looks quite wild. I don't know how it would hold up. It's got a 6.2 on IMDb. It's only got 216 ratings, so not many people have seen it. And I only remember seeing part of it. But that basically is
that sounds like such an interesting idea for a show. It's a TV movie. It's on YouTube.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah. It's on YouTube.
Okay. But yeah, it's a kind of a Black Mirror episode, really, isn't it? Like, what we've explained is that aliens come down and say, "We're going to help you, but you're going to have to give us this." And like, oh, I don't know about that, but it'll be the best for the whole world, will it? Because we're about to turn Australia into we've got to flood Australia to make it work. And all the Australian people are like, yeah, we can move and stuff like that. And, the room is made for them elsewhere and they're going to move them, but like they've got to do that. Yeah, Cosmic Slop, it sounds interesting. I don't know if I'd revisit it on YouTube, but it's definitely a thing that just jogged my memory. But yeah, everything we talked about, it's been it's quite wide ranging and strange. I didn't think it would get there. But
it did, Jeff.
It always really does. Like it always does. Thanks very much for talking to me, buddy. And I'm glad you're feeling better. And I am doing well down here. Thanks for asking.
I'm glad you're doing well, buddy. Good luck shaping your reality this week.
Yeah, you shape yours into some sort of a tube and look into it and stay out of the piss trough at the water park. Go and play.
Okay. I will. Thank you.
All right, buddy. I love you.
I love you too. Bye. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us on your podcast app and keep up to date with all new episodes. They're going to be coming out once a week. We are Echo and Sidetrack on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are Echo Sidetrack. Go listen to our music on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, or wherever your ears consume happiness. Lots of love, people.